So, when you think of the Great Pyramids, what comes to mind, right? It's that perfect, timeless shape against the desert sky. But here's the thing, that perfection didn't just happen. It was the finish line of a long, messy, and frankly fascinating story of trial and error. So how'd they really do it? Let's get into the incredible innovation story behind these massive stones. Okay, so to really get how they built these things, we've got to understand their world first. Ancient Egypt. I mean, this was a civilization that wrote its ambitions not just in symbols, but literally carved them into stone for all time. They thought big, really big. But their entire existence was anchored by one single powerful force of nature. And that force? The River Nile. You gotta understand, it wasn't just a river, it was the heartbeat of their entire world. The annual floods were so predictable, they literally set their calendars by them. But here's the catch. Every year, those same floods would just wipe the slate clean, washing away all the property lines. So what did they have to do? They had to become master surveyors, redrawing their world from scratch year after year. This constant cycle of destruction and precise rebuilding basically hardwired an engineering mindset right into their DNA. All right, so to pull off something as audacious as a pyramid, you need more than just good ideas. You need power, you need organization, and you need a ton of labor. It's almost like you need a society that's shaped like a pyramid just to be able to build one. And guess what? Egypt had exactly that. Their whole society was this super rigid pyramid. Right at the tippy top, you've got the pharaoh, a living god whose vision drove absolutely everything. Underneath him, you have the government officials and priests, the guys running the show. Then come the scribes keeping track of it all, the artisans and peasants, the skilled workers. And then, at the very bottom, a huge population of slaves. They were the raw, unpaid muscle that literally had to move mountains. So you see, it really did take a social pyramid to build a stone one. Every single layer was absolutely crucial. You had the vision from the top, the management from the middle, and all that immense, back-breaking labor from the bottom. This whole structure was the engine that powered their architectural dreams. But that classic pyramid shape we all know, yeah, it didn't just pop into existence. Nope, it started out as something way, way simpler. To get it, we have to rewind and look at what the original tombs for the rich and powerful actually looked like. And that brings us to the mastaba. The word actually means bench in Arabic, which is honestly the perfect way to describe it. It was this flat-roofed, rectangular building, just one story high, made of mud brick. I mean, it worked. It was a tomb. But it was totally horizontal. It just sat on the ground. It wasn't reaching for the heavens or anything. And this right here, this is our starting point. Solid, sure. Dependable, you bet. But iconic? Not yet. This was the simple idea, the foundation, that was about to get a major, major upgrade from an architect with a completely new vision. Okay, the innovation here was just pure genius in its simplicity. King Zoser's architect basically had this light bulb moment. He thought, hey, why stop at just one mastaba? What if we build one, and then stack a smaller one on top of it, and then another one, and another. And just by stacking these benches, boom, he created the world's very first pyramid, the step pyramid. It was literally a staircase to the heavens. This totally flipped the script on what a tomb was. It wasn't just a place in the earth anymore. It was a gateway above it. But getting from that first step pyramid to the smooth, perfect ones we all know, well, that journey was anything but smooth. This next part is a story about one pharaoh's obsession, his incredible ambition, and a bunch of spectacular and totally necessary failures. And his name was Snefru. So Snefru kicks things off by building his own step pyramid at a place called Medium. But he wasn't happy just copying what came before. Right from the start, he just didn't like it. He felt like it was just a knockoff of Zoser's pyramid, not something new. He wanted something better, something perfect, a smooth-sided monument. So he aimed even higher for his next project. So at this new site, Dashnor, they start building this huge pyramid with a really steep, smooth angle. But as it gets taller and taller, disaster. The ground underneath just wasn't solid enough. The foundations started to give way, and these terrifying cracks began to appear all over the structure. It was literally cracking under its own weight. They were looking at a total collapse, so his engineers had to act fast. Their solution was kind of crazy. Halfway up, they just changed the angle from a super steep 54 degrees to a much safer 43 degrees. It worked. It saved the pyramid. But it also left them with this famously weird-looking structure we now call the bent pyramid. It's basically a monument to an engineering crisis that they had to solve on the fly. But Snefru still wasn't happy. So he sends his team back to his first pyramid at medium. The plan this time? To turn the step pyramid into a smooth one by just filling in the steps. This was a huge mistake. The new outer layer, the casing, it wasn't attached to the main structure properly, and the whole thing just collapsed. A giant pile of rubble. It was a total disaster. But man, what a lesson in how to build things that don't fall apart. So after learning from all these mistakes, the bad ground, the wrong angle, the flawed casing, Snefru decided to give it one last shot. He commissions a third pyramid, and this time they built it from the ground up with a safe, stable angle. The result? The red pyramid. Okay, so it wasn't quite as tall as his original dream, but it was perfect. It was the world's very first successful, smooth-sided, true pyramid. He finally did it. So thanks to all of Snefru's expensive trial and error, the blueprint for the perfect pyramid finally existed. The stage was set. His son, Khufu, could now take all that hard-earned knowledge and build what would become the single most ambitious structure in human history, the Great Pyramid of Giza. Okay, let's just try to wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this thing. The total weight? An estimated 6 million tons. To put that in perspective for you, that's like taking 10 Burj Khalifas, the tallest building in the world today, and putting them on a scale. And that weight comes from over 2.3 million individual stone blocks. Each one of those blocks weighs, on average, about 2.5 tons. That's like a car. And some of the blocks, the ones deep inside the pyramid, they weigh as much as 80 tons. Just mind-blowing. And listen, this wasn't just about piling up a bunch of heavy rocks. This was precision engineering on a scale that's hard to even imagine today. They learned from Snefru's mistakes, right? So they built it on a solid rock foundation that wasn't going anywhere. They aligned it almost perfectly to true north, which is just an incredible feat of astronomy. The inside was made of strong yellow limestone, but the outside, oh man, the outside was originally covered in polished, brilliant white limestone. It would have shined like a beacon in the desert sun. And of course, they used that perfect angle they had learned the hard way, 51.5 degrees. But it's easy to get lost in the numbers, right? The massive scale, the incredible engineering. And we can forget about the most important part of this whole story, the colossal human effort that made it all happen. This quote just says it all. You can feel the intense daily pressure these builders were facing. Every single day was a race against the clock, a fight against the laws of physics. Just try to picture it. You're a foreman, you see the strain lines forming in this huge granite block above your head. You know it might crack, but you also know the pharaoh's deadline is non-negotiable. You can't wait. There was just no room for error. And who did all this work? A massive, organized army of people. Now, some of them were skilled workers and farmers, laboring during the off-season and getting paid for it. But let's be real. The raw, physical power needed to cut, drag, and set every single one of those millions of stones, that came from the back-breaking labor of unpaid slaves. So, at the end of the day, what are we left with? These unbelievable structures. Yeah, they were built as tombs for the dead, giant monuments to one king's journey to the afterlife. But their real story, the one about ambition and spectacular failure and learning from your mistakes and just refusing to give up, well, that might just be one of the greatest lessons they ever left for us, the living.